I am on a journey towards discovering higher versions of myself, and just like every journey, it gets pretty lonely sometimes. This is why I have made it a goal to bring as many people as I can on this personal development journey towards higher versions of themselves, towards achieving that dream life, towards fulfilling your purpose, towards being all that you can be. No more mediocrity, no more playing it small. I am Judith Ebengho, and this is the JM Show. The key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. Stephen Covey. Hi guys, welcome to another amazing episode of the JM Show. And today, from the quote I just gave, we'll be talking about intentional scheduling. How I get to do mine, and maybe you can learn one or two things from it. Thing is, I get asked a lot, how do you get to do most of the things that you do? And for me, there are times when it feels overwhelming, but for me it's just doing one thing at a time and taking it one day at a time, making time count. On this topic, it's particular psalm speaks to me deeply. It's Psalm 90 verse 12. It says, "So teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom." I feel being intentional about what you spend your time on is a very wise decision you can make, just to make sure that you're not wasting time here on earth. If you listen to the last solo episode I did, I asked a question under the time preparation. I said, what is your routine like? How do you spend a typical day? In that episode, I talked about the three preps we all need to make sure that we're all making our life count for something. So like I said, I always get this question, how do you do it? How do you go about this? I have been very intentional about scheduling since I think 2017. I had a friend tell me about how she journals, how she maps out what she has to get done and all that. It sounded foreign to me at that time, but it was something that I knew there was a lot of wisdom in it. So I was like, I'm going to research more on this and then see if I can adopt it. And I went on to get a journal and all that. I wrote an article about it on my website, so I'll just put in the necessary links for anyone who may find it useful. Most times I plan towards anything that I want to do. If you see a launch date or something, just know that the work had started long before that poster was released. I've been exposed to a lot of materials on journaling, on to-do list, scheduling and all that. In fact, I became really, really obsessed with this topic. I had an app developed just to help people really prioritize their time. I feel that there is no limit to what we are capable of if we just really put our time to good use. Here's how I go about my intentional scheduling. I'm not saying it is the gold standard. I'm just sharing what I do, and maybe you could pick one or two things from how I get to do mine. We operate in years, months, weeks, and days, right? Like Stephen Covey said in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It says, begin with the end in mind. That is, for anything you want to do, any year, any season of your life, you should really know the outcome you're going for, how you want that thing to end. You may not have all the resources you need right now. You may not have what it really takes right now, but it's always good to know what the outcome you're looking for feels like or looks like. That way it guides what you do every day. It guides every step that you take towards that goal. So for me, I always have a very big picture of how I want my year to look like. At the end of this year, what do I want to do and what do I not want to do? Whenever I make plans like this, 365 days is a very long time, and a lot of things can change within that time, so I do not cast it on stone. Whenever I say, okay, this is what I want to do for a year, it doesn't mean it cannot change. It just means that at the end of this year, this is how I want it to look like. For example, now COVID hit, and there are some things that I would have said, okay, I really want this to happen, but
it may not happen that way. I may have to strategize another way to get there. I may have to even do something totally different. So that's what I'm saying. When you plan for a long time, which is 365 days, it should not be cast in stone. So I write down what I want to get done within that year. Another thing is breaking that yearly plan into quarters. Out of everything I want to do this year, what can I do in the next 90 days? The whole 90 days thing is a really new development for me, because I just got to hear an amazing coach, DDK, talk about the 90 days upgrade plan, and she says that waiting for the year to run out is actually not a wise decision to make. So it's always good to have blocks of quarters where you want to get things done. Within these 90 days, another very important thing that I love to do is to say, okay, this month, what am I going to do differently? What am I going to get done this month? The funny thing is, some of our year goals, you can actually do it in a month. You can do it in 3 months. So that is why waiting for 365 days to actually evaluate your goals and take steps towards it may not be the wisest decision you can make. So I break these years into quarters, and then I break this quarter into months. Mind you, we want to get the smallest divisible unit, like they'll say in math, the smallest units that we can work with. So for a month, I have my goals. What do I want to do this month? How do I want to get it done? So I break that into months, and then into weeks. Every week, what are my key goals for this week? What are my key events? What do I want to really get done this week? And then after weeks, every day. You have to be doing something every day towards that big goal, no matter how small it is. If you want to read a book, if you plan to read more this year, rather, you have to read at least, maybe say, I'm going to be reading a chapter a day, 2-3 chapters a day. It's not the last day of the month you're not going to say, oh, how can I just finish this book this today so that I would have read a book. It doesn't really work that way. Let me give you a practical example. Let's say this year you want to lose 30 kg. Wow, 30 kg is quite a lot of weight to drop. Another thing you can do is say, every 90 days I want to lose 10 kg. You further break this down. This means that every month you should lose between 3.5 kg to 3 kg, right? You can see how that big goal is becoming something really small. From your 3 kg, that means every week you should drop at least 1 kg. And there you go, you have something to work with. When you're exercising, when you're eating right, you all know that, okay, by the end of this week, when I weigh in, I should have dropped 1 kg. It may not work that way every time, because sometimes these things are way out of your control. That is why you need to set goals that are to an extent within your control. But if it's a goal that is way out of your control, you should give yourself the grace to actually fail at that goal for a certain while before you can actually control the things that you need to do. I've learned to be really flexible with my planning, because the only thing that is constant, the only thing that I am sure would really happen is change. I may want to do this at a particular point in time, and everything just goes upside down, and I'm like, this can happen. So be really flexible. Do not make your planning cast in stone. I've also learned that re-strategizing doesn't mean that you're confused. It doesn't mean that you really don't know what you want to do. You may just have to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, this is not working. What can I do differently? How can I make this work for me? Halfway through the year, I had goals that I did not even set at the beginning, but right now I'm like, it's very important I get this done right now, because seasons have changed, times have changed. So it is really important to be flexible when you're carrying out your intentional scheduling. Be flexible and allow yourself that breathing space to be creative. Allow yourself that breathing space to actually try on new things. A lot of people have heard about scheduling before. A lot of people have heard about the need to have a to-do list, about the need to plan your life, about the need to have goals. Yet not a lot of people do it. Why? Because initially you're going to feel so bad that you're like, I just want to stop. You're going to forget. If you're using a journal or you're using an app, you're going to forget to log in your activities for that day. You're going to forget to write it down. And even when you write it down, you're going to forget to stick to it, because you're just learning it. You're just learning how to do the whole intentional scheduling thing. And when you're new at something, always give yourself that chance to fail at it. Give yourself that opportunity to really suck at what you're doing before you eventually catch up. So when I started, was I writing down everything I wanted to get done? No, I wasn't. Was I very consistent? I was not. Initially, I started with a book and a pen, and what I do is I would take that book and pen everywhere I went to. So even if I forgot, when I open my bag, it's there. So I would just look at it and be like, oh, okay, so where am I right now? And just me letting myself keep forgetting and remembering over and over and over. Soon it became a habit. Before something can become a habit, people say you have to do it for 21 days straight. So please let yourself feel at it. Let yourself be inconsistent. Let yourself forget that, okay, I wrote this thing down, and then come back to it. When you remember, come back to it. When you remember that, oh, I've not been writing what I wanted to do down, come back to it. Soon it will become a habit, and you just find yourself thinking, oh, I really need to write this down. Or when people call you, can you come? You're like, oh, I'm sorry, my schedule is full, I am totally booked for the day. Yeah, you're booked with yourself, and it's very okay to be booked with yourself and your activities. So yes, let yourself suck at it. Let yourself really feel when you start living intentionally. Soon it will become a habit, and it will just become a reflex action, and you just do it. But you have to consistently build that culture. I'm going to put a link to the app that I was talking about, the app that I am working on, in the show notes. So please just try it out and let me know if it really helps you with your intentional scheduling. I'm also going to put a link to all the articles I wrote far back in 2018. I received a comment, and someone was like, this article really helped me hit my goals and all that. So you should really check out that article, especially when you're starting your intentional scheduling journey. And this was far back as 2018, and this is 2020, and the person is really seeing the importance and the whole point of scheduling. So it took some inconsistencies, some failing, but the thing is, don't quit. Just keep going for it and keep living intentionally.
The JM show is not a monologue. It is a dialogue. It is a heart-to-heart conversation with you. Yes, you listening right now. That is why I would love to know what you think. I would love to know what your nuggets were from this episode. Kindly leave us a comment on our website, www.judithebengho.com/podcast, or leave a comment on our Instagram page at thejm.show. All of these will be linked in the show notes below. Also, do not forget to subscribe to this podcast and also give a review for us on Apple Podcasts. It really helps with the rating of this show. We would appreciate your support to keep the show going. You can make a donation to the JM show by following the link in the description. Thank you so much for tuning in, week out. We really appreciate you. We appreciate the support. We appreciate everything. Till next time, keep living.